Arms control efforts have long been a multi-stakeholder activity that includes non-state actors, that includes organizations that can on occasion act as catalysts and agenda setters. And today, technology developments and changing innovation patterns do challenge the notion of who should sit around the table and how do you bring them together. The traditional arms control community was populated primarily by actors from the government and non-state side that have a focus in the defense realm, and the technologies of concern were almost exclusively technologies that originate in the defense industrial sphere. And today, this is no longer the case. There's spillover from commercial technologies that originate outside of the military realm but have implications and applications in defense that need to be considered. The innovation ecosystems that drive research and technology today in new technologies that are militarily relevant have long blurred the civilian and military divide.
I think if you look at AI and commercial space in specific ways, AI, I think, is an example of spin-in, if you like. So you're talking about machine-based decision-making moving into the military sphere. Commercial space is more spillover, where you have technologies which should be transferable to countries with an interest in long-range weapon systems, for instance, like ICBMs, where some of the technologies in commercial space, particularly launch vehicle technology, there is a risk that that then becomes co-opted or utilised in a way that it isn't intended to. Now, obviously, in AI, the drivers are primarily commercial, and the standards therefore are commercial standards, whereas in the military sphere, where you have technologies which are based around, potentially machine-based decision-making with eventually a lethal element to that, then the level of reliability that you need for the software is far, far higher in some ways. And the commercial sector obviously isn't necessarily geared to that because it's not looking at that kind of application.
There have been some really good examples where multi-stakeholder engagement has impacted the arms control community. One would be the Ottawa Treaty, also known as the Landmine Ban Treaty. There you had the advocacy of two non-governmental organisations, the International Committee for the Red Cross and also the International Campaign to Ban Landmines. And working together and through a series of conferences and forums, they were able to work together with states, resulting then in the formation of a treaty. Now there are 164 states parties to that treaty. Another good example within a arms control organisation is the Scientific Advisory Board at the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. With that instance, you have 25 independent experts from OPCW member states who are able to provide technical and scientific advice to the Secretariat and also to the Director General.
From an arms control perspective, there are a number of reasons for why a multi-stakeholder approach is beneficial and should be encouraged. One is knowledge sharing, to make sure that current technological developments are reflected. Another reason is to ensure that current technology is used for verification purposes. And a third reason is perhaps to encourage responsible innovation in areas that might not have primarily military applications.
At the industrial or the manufacturer level, I think you have two kinds of companies. One, you have the traditional company which has been long involved in arms manufacture and weapons development, where there is, or there should be, an interest in trying to ensure that the kinds of legislation, guidelines, rules, call it what you will, that emerge, actually reflect their views and their capabilities, obviously in line with governmental and supranational rules. Then there are the companies who actually are going to be involved in, if you like, spin-in technologies. So again, the artificial intelligence companies who don't necessarily have a background in this kind of area, but may have both financial and kind of moral and ethical issues, if you like, that you want to look at. Obviously, the financial ones, there's an untapped marketplace potentially. Morally and ethically, however, some of those companies' employees and some of the investors may have a very, very different view of arms sales, arms exports, arms development. And again, you think that for that to be able to live in that marketplace, they need to be comfortable. And obviously this is a way to potentially influence how the controls develop.
Science and industry can get involved in arms control through arms control organisations which already exist, conducting education and outreach activities. Now those activities could be things such as open days to universities or open days to the organisations themselves. They could be through online e-learning tools. and they can be through visits and lectures as well to universities to work with the emerging scientific communities. The benefits of this are that it promotes a culture of responsibility within those scientific and industrial fields. Additionally, it also allows the work and the mandate of those arms control organisations to be more understood within the field, especially from people who might not be too familiar with their work. This also provides a sharing and association experience as well, which can be very helpful for later on with building the foundations of either new arms control agreements or adding to existing ones through making changes in the implementing treaty.